There's quite a bit that needs to be gotten off my chest throughout the course of this production. So we might be here for a little while. Therefore, I would advise every one of you to listen to me very carefully. Let me start off by running down my usual formation. For those of you who are watching this production, then I want you to start this off by getting my likes up. Give me the big thumbs up. Furthermore, share this production. As I've told y'all, that YouTube has placed this channel under a shadow ban since late 2020, which has hindered my subscriptions, and I have not moved past 20,800 in over 4 years. And for those who would like to show support for the productions made on this channel, then you can feel free to do so via the links in the description box. Now, with that being stated, excuse me. Today's November 7th, just 2 days past the election results. Many of you probably know. If you don't know, I was on Brian Solange's live stream the night of the election, just like 4 years ago for the 2020 election. And we know now that Donald Trump had spanked Kamala Harris in a landslide. And you have many people who are upset with this loss that Kamala Harris lost. You have many people who are simply in mere disbelief. You have many people who are getting online and trying to find somebody to blame. And I'm talking about the Kamala Harris supporters, the Democratic shills and bootlicks, anybody who is a supporter of this goofy ticket that was put together. They are crashing out and burning all over the place. And I'll just say this much. I told y'all a couple of months ago that logically speaking, that there is absolutely no way that Kamala Harris wins the 2024 election. I told y'all she had no chance. If we deal with it by leaving it on a logical perspective, she can't win. Number one, she didn't have enough time to try to clean up her reputation, let alone get a proper campaign together. And then you see the disaster that she was with the little bit of time that she did have. She did not use it wisely and failed miserably at articulating what her agenda would be. And like I said, this is simply a matter of simple mathematics. You don't take somebody. I mean, you can't even say at this point they plucked her out of obscurity. You're taking somebody who has a horrific reputation, especially when it comes down to black men. And somehow thinking after her horrible reputation and her mistreatment of black men when she was a prosecutor in California, that somehow black men are supposed to go out here, as well as the black community, and help to get her over the top. I mean, I got to sit back and really wonder, for all of you who are pissed off with black men who decided to vote Donald Trump or vote third party, or to simply sit it out. It's amazing because what this shows right here, this is actually a microcosm of the Democratic Party, of their whole structure. Their integrity, which their foundation is weak. They have absolutely no integrity. They take no accountability. They never have the ability to actually self-reflect, to analyze where they went wrong or see the trajectory of something to know whether this is going to land in a positive outcome for them or in a negative one. They fail at this in its entirety. And you got black men, black women. You got people who are upset with black men who did not go out here and vote for this party. As I've told y'all, the only way that Kamala Harris gets over the top is if they manage to finesse some more of that 2020 magic that they did with Joe Biden. And see, there was a different set of circumstances that took place with the 2020 magic. I've told y'all on this channel for years, at least since for the past 4 years, that everything that they do, they have to know that they can get a large enough portion of people on board or if not, a large enough portion of people who will just simply cast a blind eye and not care. That's when they go through it, moving forth with their agenda. They were able to get Joe Biden over the hump. And listen, y'all already know where I stand when it comes down to the election result of 2020. If some of y'all believe, oh man, he beat him fair and square. Okay, I'll just tell you this much. I got a bridge in Brooklyn I'll sell you for an even cheaper price. I'll even put your name on it. But knowing the circumstances of what have actually taken place back in 2020, yes, they had demonized Trump from the moment he ran in 2015, all the way until, well, still to this day now, they're still demonizing him. They managed to blame the pandemic on him, even though the states that had the highest death rate were Democratic cities like New York City. But people don't seem to put two and two together. Nonetheless, they successfully managed to stigmatize and demonize this man. So despite the fact that the results made absolutely no sense and how everything just suddenly did a complete 180, you had more than enough people that were desensitized who just merely did not like Donald Trump or simply voted for Joe Biden. So it becomes easy to implement the 2020 magic, because even though most people know that this doesn't logically make any sense, we don't like him so much, do whatever it takes to get him out of the White House. You see, when people fall for this, it becomes easy. It becomes easy to push off an agenda. It becomes easy to finesse what took place back in 2020. The problem for Kamala Harris, the same circumstances that took place in 2020, is not what you're facing now. And just what had taken place, not only with the 2020 magic and getting Joe Biden over the hump, but just the mere pushing of Kamala Harris as a top nominee. The fact that listen, if they were going to run, my question for this, for all of you Democrat supporters who were literally pissed off that Kamala Harris lost the election, how did you not see this coming is what I'm trying to figure out. I mean, at some point, y'all have to analyze what a winning strategy looks like when somebody's doing something that is actually going to win versus a strategy that is going to fall flat on its face. How do y'all not see that? I mean, let me just say this to those of you who are Democrat supporters, bootlicks, and shills. Understand what a winning concept looks like. The best way I can describe your Democratic Party, I've been done with them for well over a decade now. But the best way I can describe your Democratic Party is cannibalistic. Everything that this Democratic Party has done ultimately will cannibalize itself. And I'll be damned if you don't see some of these same people literally cannibalizing themselves on mainstream media. Because this is what this party is. The strategies that they implement are not sustainable. Let's just simply talk about some of the stuff they want to push forth. These EV electric vehicle mandates. Get everybody out of a gasoline car and get an electric car. If you have an understanding of basic mechanics, you understand that that is simply unsustainable. It is an illogical idea. It is an irrational idea, and quite frankly, a stupid idea. Anybody with half a brain in their head understands this, therefore they steer clear of electric vehicles. But your Democratic Party has been pushing this. How do I know this? Listen, well, I can just simply go to my car dealership to bring my car in for service, and they're saying, well, yeah, we gotta we can't produce gasoline powered cars past 2030 due to Joe Biden's EV mandates. See, many of y'all don't know what a winning strategy looks like and what's guaranteed to fail. That's just one of them. This Green New Deal nonsense of them pushing electric everything. Well, not even electric everything, but battery powered equipment. To the point where you have commuter railroads right now trying to figure out how they can get rid of their diesel electric locomotives, or electrified MU conses and use battery-powered trains. You have bus companies, transportation hubs that are trying to figure out how to implement nothing but battery-powered buses. Despite the fact all of the problems that come behind these things, they're still trying to find a way to use it. This is insustainable. They're trying to take something that was not meant to be used in a specific application and trying to figure out how they can make it happen anyway. It's like these people can't think beyond their own silly imagination. I'm just trying to think for a second. Okay, I'll use an example. When I was a kid, and I told people this many years ago, probably over a decade ago, because y'all know I've worked in the heating field. My main experience with heating systems are steam heating systems. But when I first started really trying to understand this stuff, I was making small miniature hot water heating systems. And the way I would do that, I would get plastic tubing from a Petland discount, which they sold this, and I would hook it up inside of a plastic bottle or a cup or a jug or a pot and place that on top of a shelf or a dresser or cabinet somewhere. And then I would just siphon the water down and let the gravity push the water into whatever valves that I needed to split the flow off into different radiators or heating units or whatever it is I was using. And what I was trying to figure out is, okay, I would like to be able to do this without having water being taken from one bucket and dumped into another bucket. So the way I had it, I had the main bucket that had the hot water in it that would supply the water into the radiator or the heating units, and then there would be a return bucket that would just collect the waste water. And then I would take that, dump it, refill the main bucket, and start the process all over again. I got tired of doing that. So I wanted to find out, how can I get water just flowing consistently by trying to do some reconfiguration with the tubing that I had. And I come to the understanding there was no other way to do that other than using a circulator pump. There's just no other way you're going to get out of this except using a circulator pump. I'll give you another example when it comes down to heating systems. And this is when I was even younger. And in school, you would go into an arts class and they would teach you how to use Play-Doh or clay, and you can mold it and then heat it up in a kiln and it will come out solid like a rock. So when I was a little kid, I had the idea, since I was into the heating systems and I just started learning just a little bit about it. I figured, okay, I could hook up or mold small radiators out of clay, have a big tank that would serve as a boiler, have a little match underneath it that will boil the water, and have like clay tubing just running into these little radiators, heating them up. And I figured it was going to have the same outcome that you would see in a standard house or apartment building. Come to find out, that never worked. Multiple reasons as to why it didn't work, but I'm not going to get into all that. I'll just simply say, if you think you're going to produce enough or boil water from a match candlelight, then once again, I got a bridge in Brooklyn I'll sell you for an even cheaper price. So at some point, I had to come to the realization that what it is that I would like to happen and what is logically going to happen and not going to happen are two different things. So either I got to find a way to logically produce the BTUs that I need to bring water up to enough of a boil to make enough steam for the application of what I need, or it is simply not going to happen. Democrats lack that ability. They fabricate something in the back of their mind and they push for it, despite the fact that all of these things are showcasing that this is not happening. And yet and still, they still will go down the same path that will only lead or end in disaster. This is Democrats for you. It is the problem with the Democratic Party is this: they can't get out of their own way. Stand by. All right. So Democrats fabricate these silly, goofy, stupid ideas in the back of their mind, and then they try to impose it on everybody, on the rest of society. And if you dare challenge it, first they're going to label it as misinformation, disinformation. Then they're going to send their fact checkers out to come and hide your post or put that decal underneath your post. Or they just simply remove your post. We know how far they've gone with censorship. This is what Democrats stand for. Democrats do not align their base with competent people who are in touch with the grassroots, that know what's going on and what the temperature of people actually are. Democrats simply live in their own sheltered bubble and fabricate their own realities and think that, okay, since we believe this is going to work and we like the idea, you must like the idea. And now they are finding out the hard way that that's just not the way the world works. At some point, logic and reality does not constitute to your childlike, silly ideas. So these are just some examples that I'm giving of how Democrats literally have screwed themselves over. Or just to get you privy to the concept of how they have screwed themselves over. Now I'm going to give you a breakdown to how they screwed themselves over. The Democratic Party, clearly you see that the candidates that you ran were flawed. Not only within Kamala Harris, but Joe Biden as well. My thing is, why would you run these two candidates? Why would you run them? Hillary Clinton, if you were going to have a woman win the presidency, the one who had a better chance was Hillary Clinton, not Kamala Harris. And you see what happened to her. She lost. I told y'all months ago, this is a simple matter of 1 + 1 = 2. Not 4, not 12, not 16, not 9. 2 + 2 = 4. But Democrats are trying to tell you, no, that's incorrect. That's misinformation, disinformation. But then when reality slaps them across their face and they're sitting there looking stupid, now you're going to realize what you want and what you're going to get are two different things. So if Hillary Clinton did not get the vote, and the majority of white women did not vote for Hillary Clinton, they voted for Donald Trump back in 2016. That should have been a lesson learned. If a white woman could not get the majority of white women to go out there and vote for her, what made you think that somebody that you were parading around as a black female, which we all know that's false, it's clearly been debunked countless times. What the hell made you think you were going to get her over the top? It wasn't going to happen. You see, y'all had more success with Barack Hussein Obama. Y'all could have y'all ran him as a black man because, well, hell, he actually has a black father, even though he's biracial. So there was no argument that could really be had based off of his blackness, except, okay, you're half white. Kamala Harris, there's no telling what the hell she really is, because she won't explain anything. First of all, you should have never ran her as a black woman, and you should have ran her as the first woman of color. Okay? That way, instead of sitting here getting into these foolish, stupid squabbles about what her background is, there would be no argument that could be said. She's the first woman of color, which that is an actual fact. It cannot be argued. Now, instead of spending time going back and forth on nonsense, you can actually hammer out your actual policies and your agenda, and as a why you are best fit for the job that you're applying for. Kamala Harris failed to do that miserably. She never one time checked her team and said, hey, listen, stop with all that garbage. Stop. She never one time came out and said, listen, let me go ahead and set the record straight. She never did this. Had she done this, it would at least shown that, okay, she has at least an ounce of integrity. And she could have built upon that, but she failed to do so miserably. So let's just look at both of these candidates for a second. Joe Biden ran 2 other times for president and failed miserably. I mean, the first time he had to drop out was because he plagiarized another man's speech, which just shows how inauthentic he is. And one of the biggest problems that the Democratic Party is facing is your lack of integrity. When you put candidates like this and make them your front runner, you literally are shattering your integrity. He ran 2 times and failed miserably. That should have been enough for them to say, okay, it is time to toss the baby out with the bathwater. We can't do nothing with you. You're trash, garbage. But no, they figured, okay, we're going to find use for him. And they managed to sneak him by just barely off the skin of his teeth. If every election that takes place after Barack Hussein Obama's victories in 2008 and 2012, You're barely squeaking by, and the margin of people who are voting for you are less and less. At some point, you have to see that trajectory and realize, okay, this is not a good look for us. This isn't going to work. We better come up with something and come up with it fast, unless we want to be permanently irrelevant. You see, the Democratic Party has spent so much time trying to make black people, the black voting bloc, permanently irrelevant, but I think at this point in time it actually backfired on them, and you will probably be making yourselves permanently irrelevant. What I foresee happening is that red wall, that red wave that Republicans did not get in 2022, that probably is going to be coming around in the near future. I think this is just the start of a landslide of losses that Democrats are going to face if they still continue to go down the path that they've been on. Wagging your fingers in the faces of people, of black men, and shaming people listen, that's not going to help you. All you're doing is showing your butt hurt. Maybe you need to go to Tampon Tim Walsh and get you a tampon. Because this is exactly what we're dealing with here. Okay. So back to what I was saying. They ran Joe Biden. He barely gets by off the skin of his teeth. They have to go ahead and, the 2020 magic goes into full effect. Kamala Harris, which ran in 2019. And this is just where you start to really screw yourselves over. You introduce her as a black woman. She's immediately getting pushback. You're setting up these cringe-worthy videos talking about how she listens to Cardi B as if Cardi B has any sway over black people. You talk about she mentions how she used to listen to Tupac when she was in high school. Tupac wasn't even a rapper at that time. So all of these things are immediately backfiring and blowing up in her face. They talk about how she's a strong candidate and the first black woman who could potentially win the election and generated all the support, donated more than anybody else. But yet and still, she was the first one to drop out of the election before a single vote was ever casted. Think about that. For all of you Democratic supporters, shills, and bootlicks, I want y'all to just think about where I'm going with this here. Let's just say it's true that she actually managed to outraise everybody else that she was running against. My question is, with that kind of money, when she dropped out, what did she say? I'm not a billionaire. I cannot afford to fund my own campaign or finance my own campaign. Well, I would have expected that with all the money that you raised, even if you were going to drop out, I would have expected it to be just a little bit later on or way down the line. I would have expected her to hang in there for just a little bit. That didn't happen. You've seen how she got destroyed by Gabby Tulsa, if I'm saying her name right, when it came down to her prosecutor record. Got destroyed. And when you look at the entire video clip and look at Kamala's response, the same way she gives these empty word salads when she was being asked simple questions, can't give an answer, was the same response she gave when Gabby Tulsa questioned her arrest record, her withholding information, her holding black people in prison, falsely being accused and held in prison. She had no response to it. So all of these things are working against you. And also, if she's the first one to drop out before a single vote was even cast, now mind you, I just mentioned how it was stated how she outraised everybody else when it came down to funding. How is it that you were the first one to run out of funds? How did that happen? And if this were true, if this is true, that she outraised everybody else, then my question is, where did the money go? What did you spend it on? Which just goes to showcase how reckless she is when it comes down to her spending. If you manage to raise up that much money, how is it that all of a sudden you no longer have that money to at least get you by for a couple of months? How is it that you were the first one to drop out before a single vote was even casted? The point that I'm trying to make here is Kamala Harris has demonstrated that she is reckless when it comes down to her spending. Likewise, when it comes down to recently and her landslide defeat. This is horrible. She got spanked. And hey, I'm here for it because what I got to say behind that is good riddance. But you see what she was doing. Well, okay. During her rallies and campaigns, she was bringing out celebrities after celebrities after celebrities. People who could not get over the hump. And when she would bring out Beyonce, people only came there for a Beyonce concert. They didn't come there to hear her speak. They came there for a Beyonce. I mean, they literally showed videos of people leaving once Kamala Harris started speaking. This is embarrassing. And then on top of that, she's getting booed at her own rallies. But from what I'm hearing, I don't know whether this is true or not, so don't hold me to it, is that Kamala Harris or Beyonce was paid somewhere around $11 million just to give that 4-minute speech. I want you to think about that. Now, once again, I don't know how true this is or whether it's even true to begin with. But when you think, if this is to be true, that just goes to showcase what she prioritizes spending her money on. The money that she could be using for other things that could potentially get her over the hump into the finish line. She failed miserably. And we know how many other countless celebrities that she had come out to speak for her. Jennifer Lopez, Cardi B, Meg Thee Stallion. She had a host of celebrities. How much were they paid to do this? Is what I'm trying to figure out. And if they were paid a substantial amount of money, I mean, I believe it was North Carolina and Florida went through 2 major devastating hurricanes. That same money that you use to go forth and pay celebrities, if that is true to begin with now, you would have done yourself a whole lot better using that money to say, hey, we're going down to the places that were devastated by these hurricanes, and we're going to use these funds to try to restore these neighborhoods, to get these people back on their feet. That right there would have worked wonders for her. She might have actually had a fighting chance had she been doing things like this. See, Kamala Harris is only looking for a photo op, which only lets you know the question you have to ask then is, who the hell are your advisors? How stupid can they be that they're giving you flawed advice like this? And you can't even pick up on the fact that this is going to be the very same thing that gets you your ass handed to you on a silver platter. So when you sit back and simply look at these ridiculous, stupid strategies, for those of you who want to sit back and blame black men, blame Hispanics, blame white women for not going out here and white men for not supporting Kamala Harris, I mean, at what point in time do you actually look at the party that you're supporting and realizing that these are some incompetent people? Whoever's calling the shots here, they need to be removed. Because you don't know what you're doing. And this is going to become very important to people, especially younger people. Learn how to see what a winning strategy looks like. You don't want to sit up here taking advice from somebody who clearly is doing everything they can it's only digging themselves a ditch. The best way I could describe this Democratic Party is cannibalistic. Everything they touch, they seemingly destroy. And you would have to be a goddamn fool to get behind this party and back their agenda. This is something that can't be supported. Now let's just look at the 2020 election when Joe Biden became the nominee. This is just once again piss poor strategy. We seen that Kamala Harris, she was a dumpster fire. She was trash, and you should have left her where you found her at, in the garbage. But what Joe Biden does is, so I'm going to go ahead and appoint a black woman as my running mate. So he goes ahead and he selects Kamala Harris. Somebody who nobody wanted. The American people already told you they don't want Kamala Harris. But Democrats are too stupid to get out of their own damn way. Not only do you have Joe Biden become your nominee, but then he chooses Kamala Harris as his running mate. This right here is a shitty ticket. And even with all that being said, if these people were just a bit more strategic, they wouldn't be dealing with the loss that they're dealing with now. Democrats essentially dug their own grave. Now it's time for you to lie in it. Anybody with half a brain, anybody with just an ounce of sense would have seen this and knew where this was going. I knew within the first 3 months of Joe Biden's administration that he was not winning re-election. And if Trump ran again, that he was going to win. I knew this. This is the reason why I told y'all with confidence, the only way Kamala Harris gets over the hump is if they can convince you that somehow she has this overwhelming support that she does not have. This is why the bootlicks, shills, and sellouts were working in overdrive to try to get her over the hump. I mean, spaces on social media platforms were being infiltrated by these bootlicks and sellouts pushing this Kamala Harris agenda to the point where it got disgusting because I'm seeing this shit every single day. Spaces that are supposed to be for black people are literally become talking points and outlets for promoting Democrat agendas, promoting Kamala Harris. My question to some of y'all that were doing this, how do you feel now? Talking about we not going backwards. Most of you niggas are ass backwards. If you're this stupid and you couldn't see that she was going to lose in a landslide. And I'm glad she did. Because it just lets you know, for the people who are supporters of her, you really are dealing with people who I'm trying to be clean here. I really am. So let me just not go too hard like I want to go. But I'm just going to say this much. It just showcases that y'all lack critical thinking. You lack pattern recognition. You lack foresight. Because if you had foresight, you would have known this was going to be the trajectory. And the way they kept screwing it up within this year alone should have told y'all that there's no way a Democrat gets over the finish line. It's just not happening. There was no path possible to victory for them. And see, if Democrats were smart, if they were smart, they would have let Trump finish out his second term in 2021. That would have been his election to win. Because had they done that, guess what? Okay, 4 years down the line, 2025, he's out of there. We ain't got to worry about him. By that time, we can revamp, we can get a better candidate, and we got time to get their reputation out there, fish out their reputation, and especially with the way they were demonizing Donald Trump, people weren't feeling him. People disliked him. There was more people that disliked him back in 2020 than that do now. See, what you Democrats have done was Donald Trump, his reputation that you put in the gutter, you have resurrected this man. I know people personally who could not stand Donald Trump, who voted for Joe Biden and now are saying, oh, hell no. Put Trump back in the White House. People who could not stand him. Now, why would that be? Why? How did this happen? I will tell you how this wouldn't have happened. If Joe Biden had gotten in the White House and simply kept things stable, kept it the same, didn't fuck shit up the way he did, he would be coasting to victory had he done that. Had Joe Biden made things a lot better for the American people once he got in the White House, guess what? He would win in a landslide, deteriorating conditions and all. There would be no reason to swap him out. So even if he wanted to step down after he won re-election, he could say, hey, listen, I'm going to run into 2025, maybe mid or summer of 2025. I'm going to step down and I'm passing down the torch to Kamala Harris. And that would have been that. Had y'all done this, you would have set yourselves up for a landslide victory come 2024. But no, Joe Biden immediately gets in the White House and starts doing things that are unpopular, causing all of this division after he was like, we got to heal and all this other stuff. And you've seen clearly this is the most divisive presidency I have ever seen in my lifetime. He gets in from day one. I believe the first executive order he signed was to cut the Keystone Pipeline. At a time when people are struggling, don't have work, the few people who actually have stable gigs or are able to land a stable gig working on that pipeline are now finding themselves being displaced. How do you explain this? The same president who was supposed to be this great healer. The same president that Don sour ass Lemon was getting out here and literally caping for. Talking about his hands are coming out and healing the country. Okay, what a great healer he was, right? I guess that's one of the reasons why your stupid ass is fired from CNN right now. If that was not enough, opening up the border, literally, allowing millions to flood the border, dumping them in these cities with no plans, putting more of a financial constraint on people's taxpayer dollars, and then putting people in physical danger by allowing unvetted people into this country. Where did you think this was going to go? How did you think this was going to turn out? How? If that's not enough, literally trying to spy into people's bank accounts that have more than $600 in their bank account. I mean, this is the nonsense we're dealing with under the Biden administration. As if $600 is enough to even cover the goddamn rent. In many cases, it don't even cover the fucking car note. But this is what we're dealing with. The same president who wants to cut back on oil production, get people out of gasoline-powered cars, implementing all of this massive censorship on social media. Thank you to Mark Zuckerberg for coming out and confirming that, no, I was being coerced by the Biden administration. What did you think this was going to do? This is an assault on people's freedoms. Listen, man, every time I make a production, I have stated it in the intro that YouTube has placed this channel, I don't say under a bit of a shadow ban. No, they flat out shadow banned the channel. They shadow ban. Listen, I have not grown past 20,800 subscribers in over 4 years. I want you to think about that for a second. This is what YouTube has done. YouTube was retroactively flagging down videos of mine, some that have been up for damn near 2 years back during the pandemic. All my videos I made around that time, I set them to private. Why? Because YouTube was coming after them. So this is literally what we're dealing with, and this was taking place under the Biden administration. I don't know what else you want people to say behind this. I don't know what else you can expect. Where do you think you can go from here? You put a strain on people's dollars. People are struggling. Okay. We see the botched withdrawal in Afghanistan. We see the agendas that you're pushing that literally, this whole alphabet city agenda, especially pushing that off onto children, that shit is unpopular. What are you expecting? And if that's not bad enough, after people are struggling enough as it is, have lost their jobs, some might just have started working again and are starting to finally trying to rebuild their financial life back up. 9 months later, here Joe Biden comes again with another monkey wrench. By the way, if you want to keep your job, you either get that vaccine or you lose your job. And guess what? I'm going to use OSHA or weaponize OSHA to put forth these federal mandates. This is what Joe Biden did. My question is, what would y'all expect out of it? People are supposed to go back out and vote for this shit again? Are you serious? And then y'all sit up here and y'all are pissed off when this foolish woman lost in a landslide. And see, a lot of you Democratic bootlicks and shills and sellouts are out here trying to convince black people that, oh man, it's going to be so bad, he's going to give police immunity to kill us with immunity. Okay, let me just say this much right now. And now they're talking about Donald Trump when they say this. Kamala Harris is a sitting vice president. And if the police immunity is what we are going to talk about, my question is, what is her strategy to make sure that that doesn't happen? She never gave you a counter strategy. She said nothing about it. But yet y'all are voting for her, thinking that somehow she is going to do something. Listen, we had more police killings under Barack Hussein Obama. We had 8 years of this man and watched these cops get off scot-free. Situations that are blatantly in our faces, nothing gotten done. So with all of this taking place, Democrats had their time to shine and prove their reputation, and they have failed miserably. If you think that the majority of us are going to be sitting around afraid of police getting police immunity, come on, stop it. They already have it. So when I'm sitting back and I'm listening to all of these people getting up, hey, how you gonna sit back and vote for Donald Trump? How you not gonna vote? It's to the point where they're going in on people who simply chose not to vote. This is how bad this has gotten. Now, all of this fear mongering, here's the problem. See, when you're strategic, you know when this can actually work. The time for this to have worked was 2015, 2016. Why? Because we had not lived under a Trump presidency. So this could have worked at that time. And it didn't. Now that we've all lived under a Trump presidency and we have survived a Joe Biden-Harris presidency, we can see the vast difference. So that fear-mongering bullshit isn't going to work. All of this dictator talk, him getting us into wars talk, we didn't have wars under Donald Trump. We're funding multiple wars under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. All this dictator shit, he had 4 years to do it. Why didn't he do it then? You see, this is the time for the Democrats to actually do something, put forth real legislation, showcasing, hey, black people, we got your back. See, at least they would have some victory to run off of. They have no victories. There's nothing that they can sell black people on that justifies them getting the vote for black folks. There's nothing. And despite the fact that they don't have anything, yet and still, the majority of black people went out here and voted for this fucking party. Which speaks to an even bigger problem. But I'm going to talk about that later in this production. Like I said, had Joe Biden simply left things alone, just coasted, Joe Biden would be coasting his way to victory. Had he made things a whole lot better for us, he would win in a landslide. Had he made things just somewhat better than what they were under the Trump administration, he would still win in a landslide. No, Joe Biden made it his business to get in the White House and from day one, fuck shit up as badly as he could. Within his first 3 to 9 months of running the country, he had turned shit upside down in a way that I have never seen in my life. I'm sorry. You can't undo that. Your resume, your reputation is trash, garbage. There's nothing that you can sell people on that says, hey, you need to go out here and vote for. No. You had your chance to prove yourself and you failed miserably. My question is, who the hell were his advisors? Because people should have told him, listen, you see, when you have critical thinking and you have strategic thinking, you can see you have foresight and think long term and plan for the long haul, you would understand, listen, if you do this, you better understand that there's going to be two realities out of this. There's two ways you go about doing this. If you want to win re-election, then you can't piss off the citizens to such an extent to the point where you are being hated. The Let's Go Brandon joke, yeah, that went viral. When something like this becomes viral and people are backing that's a problem for you. It's not looking good. And when you got somebody who's as stupid as Joe Biden and can't even figure out what that even means, when people are saying this about him, it just shows you how disconnected from reality he really is. He is completely out of touch. So if you're going to do what Joe Biden did, then you have to come to terms and come to peace with, okay, I am going to be a one-term president. Because after I do what I'm getting ready to do, nobody is going to ever vote for me again. As a matter of fact, I'm probably going to sink the party that I am a part of. Because these policies are so unpopular. Like I told you, the Democrats, the best way to describe them, they're cannibalistic. These are not people that use critical thinking. These are not people that are based in reality. These are not people who are in touch and in tune with the grassroots. No, they think they can fabricate their own reality in the back of their mind and project that onto everyone else, and we're just supposed to conform. No. The fact of the matter is, if you're looking to win election or win re-election, which this idiot actually thought he was going to win re-election, his terrible debate performance is not the reason why he is not going to win or why he had to drop out of the race. It is his fucked up policies is the reason why he would have never won re-election. And anybody with half a brain in their damn head would have said, okay, Joe Biden, you're going to be a one-term. Let's start prepping Kamala Harris within the first year to year and a half of your administration so we can get her over the damn hump. That's what they should have did if they wanted her to get out there. But even then, still, that's a long shot. Every strategy that they used is like if you're trying to build a home, a building, some kind of a structure, and you're using poor materials at the base of that structure, guess what? That foundation is going to crumble. Whatever you put on top of that is not going to sustain. It's going to fall apart. And this is the Democratic Party for you. This is the best way I can describe them. Their foundation is entirely fucked up. Their golden years was Barack Hussein Obama. But now it's even to a point where nobody is listening to this clown. He can't get his ass out here and get anybody over the damn hump. It's done for. Your opinion, finished. You're irrelevant. Go sit the hell down somewhere in Martha's Vineyard and go over there and keep your mouth shut. Because you don't control no narratives over here. And that's what Democrats are finding out the hard way. And option number 2, if you're trying to win re-election, you have to realize you can't start pushing forth all of this garbage that Joe Biden has done. You can't do it at the rapid pace he attempted to do this shit in. The vaccine mandates is probably the most unpopular thing he's ever done. I'm just going to be honest, I've never witnessed nothing like that in my life. And the thing is, here's the next problem. Because he was asked when he first won the nomination or won the presidency, are you going to mandate the vaccine? And he said no. Then all of a sudden, 9 months later, get the vaccine or lose your job. Now, from what we understand, these idiots are trying to implement the draft, the U.S. military draft. But you had a bunch of people in the military who were discharged because they did not want to take a vaccine. And these idiots are so stupid and so incompetent, they fail to realize that, okay, what you are doing when you implement stupid, silly policies like this is you are not only putting this country at danger, but you are also putting yourself at danger. Because if you don't have a military staff to go out here and do anything, because guess what? You fired them all because they wouldn't take a goddamn shot, then guess what? You have nobody to come and protect the country, let alone yourself. This just shows you, once again, idiotic, cannibalistic ideas that come out of this Democratic Party. So before any of you Democratic bootlick shills and sellouts want to get out here and y'all want to start trying to point the finger as if somehow we were obligated to going out here and voting for a party that is completely destructive, why don't you just take a look at their policies? As a matter of fact, let me get to my usual backdrop. Like I said, before any of y'all want to come out here and start trying to browbeat anybody who chose to either sit out the election, vote third party, or just go ahead and directly vote Donald Trump, why don't you stop and question the party that you're backing with their incompetent, stupid ideas? All of this fear-mongering of what y'all are trying to talk about now, listen, the ones who showcase that they're the real tyrants are your Democrats. We didn't live under a tyrannical regime under Donald Trump. Yeah, he said some things that people didn't like. Okay, we can deal with that. I don't care about some mean tweets that he puts up. I care about somebody's policies. Both Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have fucked up policies. And after Joe Biden completely decimates his own reputation, within less than a year, here we find ourselves in 2024. And Kamala Harris says, well, guess what? I wouldn't do anything different from Joe Biden. I was a tie-breaking vote that was in Joe Biden's favor in most of these decisions. This is what she said. So what she is essentially telling us is that she is going to be Joe Biden 2.0. I'm sorry. No, we don't need another Joe Biden in the White House. As far as he's concerned, and as far as Kamala Harris is concerned, they can kick rocks. When you have a president and vice president who engage in such horrendous actions, as far as I'm concerned, this is an all-out assault on the American people, what the two of them have done within the past damn near 4 years. The only thing to do at that time is to show them the goddamn door. Good riddance. And you couldn't be gone a day sooner. And this is how terrible the Democratic Party is. Because once again, people did not like Donald Trump. They had successfully tarnished his reputation. Now, the very same man that you tarnished his reputation, you went ahead and resurrected him with your psychotic agendas and stupid strategy. It made no sense what they were doing. Everything that they attempted to do was only giving him more and more momentum. Like I said, if they were smart, they would have let him win the 2020 election. Okay, we ain't got to worry about him come 2024. We can roll. Y'all would have won in a landslide. All they would have had to do is, okay, keep throwing his name under the bus, keep trashing him, keep blaming him for stuff, and guess what? 2024, we could just steamroll right into the White House. And that'll set us up for the next victory for 2028, 2032, and so forth and so on. Now, see, here's where the Republican Party, this could go one of two ways for the Republican Party now. If the Republican Party, if Donald Trump and J.D. Vance go in and they actually make people's lives better, they actually showcase, yeah, we're better for the country, guess what? This is the end of the Democratic Party. Because now what they have done, if they just go in the opposite direction of what Joe Biden has done, they will set the Republican Party up for landslide victories moving forward. This is how bad the Democratic Party is. See, had they been thinking about this, they would have said, okay, don't run Joe Biden. Y'all pulling him out of the race back in, what was it, June or July? August? No, you should have pulled his ass out of the race back in 2019. Had you done that, you wouldn't be faced with this problem now. You would have been better off just simply letting that election go, because at least your reputation wouldn't have gone so down. You would have kept a stable reputation, because you could have still piggybacked off of Barack Hussein Obama's reputation. And regardless of what people think of him or not, it pales in comparison to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. These are their strategies. For you Democrat bootlicks who are so upset now, you can't believe that Donald Trump is going right back to the White House. How could y'all vote for him? And how could y'all? What did you think was going to happen? You need to blame or place this blame where it belongs, on your Democratic Party. When you look at the people who are running the Democratic Party, it's nothing but a bunch of old geriatrics, fossilized has-beens who should have been gone a long damn time ago. These people are completely disconnected from reality. And them operating off of their silly, stupid ideas just goes to show you they're completely disillusioned. They're completely out of touch. Say what you want to say about Donald Trump, right? But Donald Trump is showcasing that, hey, I'm out here preparing fast food meals for people. I'm feeding people. In the case of a tragedy, I'm letting people take shelter in my hotels in Florida. That's what he's doing. Oh, you want to call my supporters trash? Let me go get a damn garbage truck and take out some goddamn trash. I mean, these are brilliant strategies as far as I'm concerned. And it's comical at that. See, when y'all run around talking this foolishness, what was it? Kamala Harris said she worked at a McDonald's, so Donald Trump actually went and worked at a McDonald's for a day. I mean, I'm sorry. What this showcases, you can question his reasoning and his motives for doing this, but the fact of the matter is he's actually doing something that's to the benefit of people. You think about Joe Biden's stupid ass. The train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio. He didn't show up until more than a year later. I mean, are you fucking serious? Who the hell are his advisors? Is what I'm trying to figure out. He has time to go sit his decrepit old ass on a beach catching sun waves rather than going to these people and trying to get this situation resolved. This shows you where their priorities are at. Their integrity is shot. Their credibility is done. If the Democrats were smart, they would have seen this right away within the first 9 months and said, okay, we better get 2 new candidates to run for 2024. And they would have been preparing them since 2023 or 2022. We ain't running Joe Biden, you not running again. You gonna step down, we gonna kneecap your ass because we're not gonna fund your campaign. We got these other people over here and we're gonna run them. And that's what's going to get us over the goddamn finish line. And guess what? We're going to have to throw you under the goddamn bus. Why? Because you're terrible. But then again, you really can't. In order to do that, that would mean you have to have some sort of integrity to realize that you picked a guy who's terrible. Joe Biden is just merely a representative of the Democratic Party. He is just going forth pushing out their agenda. This bumbling idiot doesn't know whether he's coming or going. So you really can't implement what I was just stating when that's not who you are. This is why every candidate that they push out here is terrible. Now, many of you believe that they're going to run Gavin Newsom come 2028. Now, he's another fucking degenerate. You can just take a look at this guy. My God, where do they get these fucking weirdos from? And I hope he never sees the light of the White House. But like I said, it's up to Trump and J.D. Vance now. If they take the country in a much better direction, then you have set Republicans up for landslide victories. Because what the Democrats have done is they have cannibalized their trust in people. They have cannibalized their base. They have caused endless division. And we've seen this during the damn pandemic, the stuff that these Democratic mayors and liberals and the governors were doing. Just as an example of how they cannibalized. The Democratic Party knows that the black community is its voter bloc. They know this. And they would have been smart to keep that bloc together. Right? But black men and black women have made our grievances vocal online on what we're sick of. And you see that there's been a lot of gender division between black men and black women. This has been going on for well over a decade. If Democrats were in tune with reality, if they had their ear to the goddamn ground, their feet to the fucking soil, they would have known this and realized, okay, we probably should not play on this gender divide. We need to get these people back together so they could go out and vote for us as one solid block. No, what did Democrats do? They went ahead and they caused division between black men, played right into it. As a matter of fact, they are the cause of the division between black men and black women. So now your voter block, which you would have had a larger number, a larger solid voting block to go vote for you, you now are literally splitting that, dividing that, just cracking it right open. So now you have less people that can get you over the goddamn hump. I mean, these are piss poor strategies. And like I told you, this is the reason why I describe the Democratic Party as cannibalistic. They have cannibalized themselves. The stuff that they prioritize, the people who they prioritize cannot get them over the hump. And now Trump's support with black men has gone up double. I mean, listen, the fact that none of these are good signs for them. And we know that his support with black women has increased, not as much as black men, but it's increased more so than it did before. Because you've had more black women getting out here being vocal, saying, hey, I'm voting Donald Trump. Those who were liberals, those who supported Barack Hussein Obama. Everything that the Democratic Party has done is cannibalistic. And listen, you don't have to have a landslide group of black people who leave the Democratic Party. You just need to shave off a little each election. See, what the Democratic Party has done, they have not actually expanded their voter bloc. They haven't increased their base. They were so eager. And this is something that the late David Carroll would state. And he stated this back in 2012 when it came down to Barack Hussein Obama winning the second election. He stated that Barack Obama's support amongst white men started to slip, that they seen this guy for who and what he was. So since he knew he was losing support, that he decided to go ahead and legalize gay marriages. Now, initially when he got into the White House, he said no to gay marriages. I remember hearing him and seeing him say this with my own two eyes. But now 2012 rolls in and he decided to legalize gay marriages. Now, according to what David Carroll was saying, was the reason why he legalized gay marriages because he knew he needed something to fill that void that he was losing with white men. And what he talked about, what the gays did, the gays organized. They put together their resources. They funded lobbyists. They gave generous donations. They had watchdogs to make sure that he was going to live up to the promises he said he was going to do when he got back in the White House. And that's how he was able to get over the hump. Now, back when the late David Carroll was alive, there was some years ago, me and him had a conversation over the phone. I think it was around 2020, maybe early 2021. And I told David Carroll, because that conversation came up. I forgot who mentioned it. But I said, listen, I got to disagree with you when it comes down to the gay community getting Barack Hussein Obama over the hump. I got to disagree with you on that. Because when you think about the gay population, let's just take the Alphabet City community. The Alphabet City community is what, less than 5%? Maybe a little bit more, maybe a little less, but they're not any significant numbers to get them over any hump. Even with all the fundings and donations, they still can't, they don't have the numbers to get you over the hump. And then furthermore, why I could say that with confidence is, listen, if you are out in New York City, depending on what part you're in, or just pretty much any part of the city, if you're out somewhere past 2 a.m, let's say you work late, you come home, you're driving in your car, and you might be stopped at a red light. You look to the left, you look to the right, and on the right side, you see somebody who's 6'4", 6'5", with blonde flowing weave out of their head, with a onesie on, a leotard, or whatever you want to classify this, and fishnet stockings and high heels. You know this ain't a goddamn woman. But you know what you see this person doing, they're doing essentially what prostitutes would do, standing on street corners. And you can find this in too many different places in New York City after hours. Why is this? And what I'm saying is these are men. These are people who are part of the Transformers, who are part of the Alphabet City community. Now, what this showcases, it showcases what goes on in their lifestyle. And even if you just simply listen to some videos of them explaining their lifestyle, they come from a background of trauma. That's what led to them making the choices that they have made. In many cases, severe trauma. Many of them, once they have gone through all of those procedures to get to that point to where you can even remotely emulate a woman, you are so far mentally gone, it's not even funny. This is why they have the highest suicide rate. When you think about a group of people like this, and I bring this up for a greater point here. When you think about a group of people like this, where do you then see them being this organized to where they are politically organized, financially organized politically, know how to get lobbyists, know how to have watchdogs, and all of these things to make sure they can push forth an agenda? They don't have it. And what lets me know this more than anything else is because they merely come from a background of dysfunction. They come from a past of trauma. In many cases, severe trauma. This is why they just, once you start getting on all of the treatments and therapy, which is not treatments, let me rephrase that. But once you start getting involved with all of the medications and the sedations that they get on, you understand that this does irreversible damage to them. This is why they have the highest suicide rate. And the fact that they are outside prostituting themselves at 2 a.m. only lets me know that you're in a state of desperation. This is probably the only way you can manage to get any money, if at all, for that matter. So you can't look at a group of people who have hit rock bottom as a collective and say that somehow Barack Hussein Obama came to this group of people because he figured they could get him over the hump. No, that wasn't the reason why he did that. The reasons are far more sinister, but I'm not going to get into that within this production. The point that was being made, and I told this to him when he was alive, that's not what got him over the hump, with all due respect. Because when I'm looking at the stuff that the Democrats have been pushing, the numbers that you are dealing with, they can't get you over the hump. If you were going to cater to any group, it should have been the black community, because the black community actually has the numbers to get you over the hump. And they don't do this. Furthermore, we understand that the Democrats, and Joe Biden said this, that Hispanics are going to make up a larger percent of the population than y'all do. So you better start learning how to work with the Hispanics. That's what he said. So what do? Immediately, they allowed a whole bunch of illegals to come into the goddamn country, and they figured, okay, we got a voter block by letting millions of these goddamn people in. Here's the problem. When you look at how sinister and how wicked the Democratic Party's agendas actually are. These people who come from foreign countries, they don't subscribe to matriarch. They come from patriarch. Here you are trying to push a matriarchal society. This is completely ass backwards, because once you get these people in here and you get them set up and situated and registered to vote, they have no obligation to voting for you. And even if they do so because they feel, okay, you got me in here, so I'm going to be loyal and vote for you, the next generation after that of their children, their offspring, doesn't vote for you. So Democrats literally were doing things to stack the deck against themselves. As I told y'all, they dug their own fucking grave. Now get your ass in that motherfucker and lie in it. This is where y'all at. Because the Democrats, their strategy is complete incompetence and sheer stupidity. And they deserve to, as far as I'm concerned, they could become a completely irrelevant party. And I hope that happens. Because a party that can engage in such betrayal, in such treason, as far as I'm concerned, is a party that, in such incompetence and sheer blatant stupidity, is not a party that's worthy of remaining in existence. An organism that stupid is too stupid to remain in existence. So once again, for those of you who are so upset that the Democrats have lost, that Kamala Harris got spanked, got her ass taken to the woodshed and spanked, at the end of the damn day, don't blame Trump supporters. Don't blame people who chose a couch. Don't blame people who voted third party. Look at yourself in the mirror. Look at your own party. Look at who you were supporting. Start understanding what a winning strategy looks like. Because Kamala Harris, anybody who knows what a winning strategy looks like, would have known that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris simply ain't it. The next hope they had before Joe Biden and Kamala Harris was Hillary Clinton. And they should have learned when she lost and said, all right, we better go back to the drawing board and rethink something. These are piss poor strategies, and these are strategies that are destined for failure. That's just what it is. The Democratic Party has literally dug their own grave, and now they're lying in it. You have nobody to blame for this but yourselves. Crazy part is all that joy and all the cooning and buffooning that a lot of y'all were doing when Joe Biden got into the White House back in 2021. All that joy nonsense seemingly turned into tears. How ironic. Self-reflection is a must. And with that being stated, that's all I got to say in this production. And I'll catch you on a later date.